Well, this time last week I was in Padova at the old car show, which is an annual trip. I particularly like it out there. It's a great way to get away from things. Beautiful town, Padova. And yeah, sometimes I need to get out of the workshop. So that was great. Very happy until I saw something really rather monstrous. It brought it all back, all last week's nonsense, all the Halloween stuff. That sort of conjured up images of some of that dreadful welding that was, the horror story that was done to that horror show of a welding fest that was done to the FIAT Dino. So I sort of legged it out of there and off to Venice to proper sort of a proper car detox. Venice, isn't it? You know, no cars, and that was good. And then. It's sort of in sort of shades of Don't Look Now. I started getting a bit spooked out and creeped out by stuff. Couldn't get the images out of my mind. It's like I was being haunted, by that red car. Little things are sort of making me think about it, red coats and yes, as I say, all a bit Don't Look Now. But it's sometimes I think I'm haunting myself with these things. Yeah, it's spooky stuff. But then let's get back to some normality. You didn't come here for silly stuff like that. You come here to see work being done. This is a former I'm making up, bit of oak, and what I've got to do is I've got to make some of these. Now this is off of this spider here that we're using for pattern making, so that I can do stuff for the one next door, the extensive project. Well, of course, these are missing on that. So I've got to make a couple of these up. You see these are two parts, then spot welded together. One bit's longer, that end's longer than that end, but they're pretty much symmetrical. That goes through a 90. So I thought we'd make a former up for that, and then I can make them in the halves of them. So I've got to make 4 halves up to make 2 complete ones. And then I'll make them longer and then cut them down to suit. And then once I've got a former, if I ever need to make some more, I can make some more. So that's the beginnings of it. So you get the idea. That's going to become a former for it. So you have to come back next week to see how they get on with that. Because you don't want to watch me with the chisel whittling that away. But that's that bit. But let's get on with something else today. So what we're doing is one of them. It doesn't look like much, does it? Now that's an old one I've kept from one of the old cars. So I've said it before about how as I work on these cars, I try and save parts to make patterns up for the future, so that we can, and I finesse them. The more information I get, the more I learn. Well, of course, this is missing a load of information down here. There's none of it. But there's more of this than there is on that car, because we had nothing on that car next door. Right, there you go. Let's get that cleaned off. What we've got to do is make one of these. So it's this piece. So that's one of those that's been flattened out. So that's what it'd look like. Well, you can see how much was missing of it, of the old one, all down here. So we got a lot more information with this one. So I can effectively I won't get rid of that. I'll keep it, because it's always best to keep these things. But you see, I've got more information now than we did have there. So I've been able to make some patterns up. So in light of that, I've so that was my first test piece. I made one up, tried it on the car, then flattened it back out, and then I've got various dimensions I'm working on there. So from there, I was able to finesse that a bit more to get to that, which will become a pattern. So I've allowed myself, pointers here that allow me to know where the line should go for where my folds go and so on. So that's a good pattern. So I've got that for the future now. So this is pretty much it. I think we got this down to how it should be. So with that, I've then marked one out here. So we'll just fold that up so we can see what we're making. But I think it'd be useful to see what that does on the car. So if we come round this way, and we'll have a look and see how it actually works and how it fits. Right, in situ, this closes up this panel here, so it goes up in there like that. So it's all sort of flat and folds. There's nothing sort of double curvature or anything too technical, but it has to fit, it has to do the job. So that becomes like that, and this is one piece that's all folded up. And then that bit of trunking goes in here that we were looking at a minute ago. So that's what we're making. And it's got to be spot welded through there and through here and onto here and so on. So that's the one. So with that, I got more information to make one, which is quite useful. So there you see, I've made a few of them. So I've got 2 cars I've got to make it for, and then I'm making, you know, one to keep back for a pattern for future reference. So there you go. That's what we're going to have. That's the new one. And you can see how it fits here, and see, you know, it will need a little bit tapping in to just to suit. And as I say, it has a little bit that goes down in there, and that's it. So there we go. That's them. Here we have an opposite one for the other side of the car, if you can see. So, you know, that's like the opposite piece, the opposite number. So we need 2 of these. That side of this car's already done. So we only need 2 of these. We need one for the German car, and then we need one for stock, as it were, or for as a reference. So that's what we're going to make now, one of these. So we'll take this up to the bench, and we'll fold it into shape so you can see what we got. And that's a useful bit of metal for working with. So this is a lovely thing for beating the metal around. We'll use that in a minute, and we'll see what we're doing. Right, so there we go. That's what we're going to be doing. I've already marked out where my folds have got to go, so we know what we're doing. And then the returns on here. So that's all marked out, ready to go. And what we're going to use, rather than putting that in the big folder, I'm going to use one of these. This little hairpin thing. You've got a pair of these. They're great little things, these hairpin tools. Now, I don't know if you can buy these. I managed to find these. They were sort of second hand. Normally you make them. Normally you get a blacksmith to make you one, or you just make one up yourself. You know, if you've got a bit of oxyacetylene, you can do this by heating it up. And of course, what these are, they're basically little tools for folding. So what you do is you'd slide them on to where you need them to do. So if you're putting a fold in there, you slide them up to your fold, and then you can clamp them or put them in a vise or whatever. So I'll show you how useful these are. So there you go. There's so there's your line you're working to. And so yeah, we'll have a look at that. But we'll do this in the vise in a minute. So we've got to decide which to fold first. So like with folding anything, you want to fold it in the right place so you don't scupper yourself, which is a lot easier said than done, actually. But there we are, we'll work that out. So these are going to fold that way. That's a 90. That's only about 15, maybe 20 degree, that one. And then these fold back on themselves to make that shape. So you can see they're going to be that. So what we have got in here is we've got this piece here. So we've got one there. We've got a fold that just goes in this piece here, just a little awkward little piece. So we might get that done before we do anything else, which is what becomes this one in there. And then eventually that gets spot welded together off the car before this will be assembled. So I think we'll start with that one. So we'll go over to the vise, take that. We want a hammer. We might want a flipper. And that should do us. We'll go over to the vise and have a go. Right, so let's start with that one. So that's just that little return there. So we get that one in there. Slide that in there like that. Get it up to where we want it. And we've got to clamp that somehow, haven't we, into our vise. Now obviously you can only get this in the vise. If you've got too much metal, you can't get it in the vise, can you? So I'm going to move that around a bit so I've got a bit of room to manoeuvre. And then I'll just tap this over a bit. Now it doesn't have to be I folded that over a bit to get a sharper edge, then I fold it back a bit to roughly where I want it. Now I know roughly what angle I want it at, so that's fine. So that does that bit. Now we want to do this one now, this one here. So we've got a little dent in there. We'll try and get rid of that now before we get too far into it. So I'll just use the end of the vise here to take that out. Right, what are we saying? We're going to do this one next. As I say, we slide this in here. Now the reason I'm doing it this way is this tool, you know, obviously you can't get this in the fold. You've got too many other bits meeting, so it won't work anyway. So that's part of why I'm using this tool, but also I'm just sort of doing it this way to demonstrate that this tool can be used for a lot of fabrication. It's, you know, it's got more room to work with here than you just have on a vise there. So it's quite a useful little tool. You can do a lot of fabrication work with one of these, and as you can make one yourself, or you know, maybe pay a blacksmith to make you one, you know, it's not an expensive thing to muck about with, and it's a really, really useful little tool. So, you know, a hobbyist could do this quite easily, or you know, you don't have to have a big fabrication shop just to have one of these. You know, even if you can't make one yourself, it wouldn't cost too much to get someone to make one. So yeah. Now, this is only 1mm stuff, so it's quite easy to fold. It's not a big problem folding it. I'll just use the flipper here just to finish off a bit. Remember, we made these. This is something I made, so you can make your own. Use an old leaf spring out of something. This, I think, was a Morris Minor one or something like that. But, you know, you can use any old leaf spring if you can find one and make these out of it. Or if you don't want to make one, get your blacksmith to make one when he's making you one of these. He'll be glad of the work, I'm sure. Right. So that gives us that one. It's going to take a little bit of the dents out of here. So the next one, we're taking this one over. We're going to take that one over to meet it. Now we're going to catch a bit of this in it, but we can straighten that out, you know, because that's a, you know, we'll just straighten that out. We'll let that fold with that, and then we'll straighten it out. So that'll be fine. So we'll do the same here. So I'll just bring it up to the edge, to the line, and there you go, and just clamp it, can't I, back in here. That gives us those two. Now we want to, we've got this 90 here, and we've got that one to come up. So that one's going to come up till those join there, so that will join there. So that gives us our datum. We know what we're working on. And that's, I said that's up, it just got folded, didn't I? So we can just take that out quickly, straighten that up. There we go. Let's do that one next. We want to take that way, but obviously we can't get this in the vise very well that way. We could get it in the vise there and fold the top over. But to do that, we would then have to put this the other side of the line, which means we won't get a nice fold there, because that will be short of here, because we'll have to have it short here. You see what I mean? So if we was to use that line the other way, you're going to end up with that like that. You see what I mean? So we're going to lose that last bit of the edge. So what we'll do is we'll persevere with that. We'll put it in there like that. And this is again where these things can be quite cool. So you can put that on there like that. And we should be able to get some of this in the vise like that. You see? So I put it in like that. So we're gripping it. Obviously it's not gripping that end, but we could use a G clamp on there or something, which I'll do just to show that we can do that. So I'll grab one. So there you can see I can just nip the end of that like that, which will just hold it together there, won't it, as well. So we've got that all where we want it to be. And you remember this one's tucking under that one. So yeah, that wants to do that, doesn't it, when it goes together. So it's not a lot of fold we need to put in that. So I'll just bend it a bit over, and then we can come back on it. You can see that's what we're going to do. So that will become there. So that should do us. That'll be enough. Right. Right. Now we'll take that one over to 90. So we're going over quite a bit with that. So we'll probably want to finish that with a hammer, won't we? So we take that nice and tight so it doesn't shift when we get the hammer on it. And we'll go across like that with it. This is only 1 mil, so it's fairly easy to do this with. So you get a good start like that. And then we've got most of it in there, but you can see it's starting to sort of bow over. So at this stage, it's worth having the hammer on it and just to help it with it a bit. So what we'll do is we'll just work it along this edge here with the hammer. So we're sort of hitting it there. We're not hitting that there or up here. We're putting dents in it. We're going along there. So we're just trying to help it to fold. So if I help it with my hand here by barsing it down, and we just do that. So the idea is to help it move the metal rather than put dents in the metal. There, so we haven't dented it up too bad. It's nice folds, that's good. So right, we're starting to take shape, aren't we? See? So now we've just got our returns to do, which is we've got these to do that way, and that one that way, then that's got to go that way, then these that way, and then these ones fold in on here, where it tucks in behind that, meets the A-post, doesn't it? So we want to get them done. So I think what we'll do with those is, let's grab these on here. We should be able to get enough in here, enough in the vise to just tap these over. We've got 2 ways of doing this. We can either do that and knock that over, or we could do that and fold the actual job over on itself, which I think is probably the better way of doing that. But what we've got to do is not fold that onto there to flatten it. So we'd need that right out the end there. So right on the edge we'd have to have that there, like that. Right. Nope. Okay. And again, we can use the hammer to help us with that last bit, can't we? So I'm sort of pulling down on here, pulling it across. Right, now we just got to do that one. But again, we've got to not fold that into here, so we might want to just open that up a bit whilst we do that. And it's only a small fold, that, so we can just do it straight in the vise there, I think. We will get some teeth mark on it, but because that's folding inwards, and where that's going on to, you won't see. You won't notice that because it gets tucked behind the A-post there. So I'll just use this straight in the vise. There you go, something like that. Yeah, that's gonna fold into it. So we're gonna run out of room in a minute. So I'll just use this to sort of tap it over. And then we can finish that off on the edge of that block of wood. Sorry, that block of steel rather. So remember, that's what we're going for. So we've got to do these returns, but I want to sharpen that up, didn't I? So what we'll do, we'll put it on here. And that'll fit in there quite nicely like that. And I can just sharpen that up a bit there. So we're just trying to sharpen that end up, aren't we, a bit there. There we go, that sharpens that up. And now I can push that back on itself again, like that. And then we can see that that's going to join there. So that's going to become that one there. And then that would spot weld together, like that. Now that one doesn't quite line up yet, but we'll deal with that in a minute. Right. Right, so that'll do that. Then you can see that one's going to want to be down a bit, so I'll just tap that down. Now this will have a couple of spot welds holding it together. You can see we want that edge to line up there. So we've gone out a bit with our fold somehow. Our fold hasn't quite followed quite through where we want it to. So we're going to have to do something with that to get that a bit sharper onto there. So let's see. Now we're struggling a bit to get that in there. And that's, we haven't done this one yet. So if we fold that up, we'll then be able to do that on there and do that. So let's get these folds done. Let's get them done next, and then we'll come back over here and finish that off. But we're getting there, it's starting to shape up. We're starting to get what we want. Right. So we use the old hairpin, and we'll get this last bit done. Right, yep, so we've got our line through there, and we'll just clamp that in the vise, won't we? And we want to finish that with a hammer to tighten it up, don't we? So we need to pull it over a bit. Right, that's that one. Whilst I'm here, I'll get them all done. What I really want to do is get another vise and get some straight flat jaws for it. I'm thinking of making some sort of like little pincer sort of jaws that will be bigger and maybe come out like that, so I can fold over, you know, so you know, you can go past a 90. But anyway, I've got, you can see, I've got some vices. One of my vices is collecting old vices, you see? So yeah, there you go. As I say, I have many vices, and one of them is collecting old vices. Right, that last bit there. Just line that one up. If I can, right, to get that one, I'm gonna have to pull this one around a bit. And we're gonna put a fold in there anyway. So what I'll do is I'll just do that quickly, just to give us something to keep it out of the way. Now I can pop that in there down to where I need it. Right, so that's those. Then we've got these two and then that one along there. I think I'll get that one now. But to get that into the here, we've got to sort that little bit out there. Well, that's fairly easy to sort out. We're just literally flattening it out a bit on here. See? And we can get this in. Right. Might be easy to get that one in there for now. Right, those two, and then we just finish it off on the block, and we're done really. So it ain't too bad, is it? And then we can have a look on the car where it goes, which will be on the car next door, on the bigger project. Now, we're going to have a trouble there, is that one's going to fold into it, isn't it? So what I might do is just straighten that out for a minute, and we'll put that back in a minute. I'll put that one back in once we've done this. This is the thing, isn't it, where I say about sort of, you know, you scupper yourself, you fold yourself into a corner, or box yourself into a corner, or paint yourself into a corner. All the right notes, not necessarily in the right order. Right, now we just want to finish that last one off, don't we? Which was on there, wasn't it, where we just changed that. So we'll just put that back in like that. Now we'll go over to the block, and we'll just do a little bit of finishing on this, and we're done really. You can see they sort of end up a bit over on the bottom there. So we need a bit more, just a touch more on ours than that. It needs to be folded over just a touch more, so we can just gain that on the edge of the bench here, and then they can be pushed back down. Just gets us over a bit further like that, you see. Now, do we need to sharpen that down? That one we'd come over and we said that wasn't in line there, wasn't it? So we're going to try and move that line over a bit, that fold over a bit, to get that to where we want it. So, so I think if we just go at that, all right, because we've got that double skin bit in behind there, we're struggling a bit to get this fold tight there, but it will do. It will do for what we want to do. That'll be fine. I'm not going to fret over that too much. Right, well that's that. That'll do it. That gives us what we want. Might need a little bit of tidying up in places, but that gives us what we want. So that's that one. Matches that one. But we've got this bit here, haven't we? Remember where that thing goes through it? Remember this has to come through there like that, doesn't it? So we need a little bit of clearance on there, on that bit. So we want to add a bit of clearance in there. So for that, we'll just find something to do that with. Let's have a look. Right, what we really want is something round, but I've just grabbed that purely because it's there. So we just want to put that in. So we'll just do that. So simple as that. And it's left some lines in there because it's not quite round in it, but it will do. As I say, if I'd bothered to find something round, which I suggest you do, there you go. Do with it. So let's have a quick look on the car where it goes. Before we do that, we'll crack test our Maserati crank, shall we? There you go. There's my lovely Maserati crank, and there you go. I don't reckon that's cracked, do you? That sings, doesn't it? Oh, I think that's not got a crack in it. It'd be dull otherwise, wouldn't it? But no, joking apart, I will get it magnifluxed. But if it sings that well, it bodes well, doesn't it? I reckon it's all right. Okay, so there we go. You've got one for stock, one for the other project, a pattern. So we're doing quite well. There you go. Someone's after me. Okay, here we are. Here's a horror show, isn't it? So what we got here, so remember when we did the first inspection video, we saw how all this was covered over and welded over, all of this. So we uncovered that to enable us to get to it for they're searching for the culprits for the helicopter. You can hear them, can't you? Anyway, and let them find them. Right, so this was covered over here like this. If you look at that first inspection video, you get to see that. This piece has been let in here, but that's part of the original there. That's original. Here's some welds where this thing covered it up. So what we've got here, this bit, where those spot welds are, and that little seam there, that's part of what we're making now. And then that's part of what we're making there, but that's the bit they've added on. And you see that little foot there? That's part of it. So here's the two we just made one of them, didn't we? I can't remember which one. Was it that one? Anyway, it doesn't matter. We made, look, it was just, one of them we just made. So that piece there is that. You see that corner there? And then that goes through there into there. So that is that bit. So that's effectively there. That sort of goes up in there like that. So that's what it does. Now we can't fit it properly because we can't get it back against this edge, which means we can't get that against that edge because of this weld that's in here. And then that piece there, you see that's that bit there is that bit there like that. And then that goes there. And then you see this piece here, that's that bit there, isn't it? And then that folds back down into there, and then it rests down on here. But all this stuff's got to come off. This is all stuff that's been added on. You get the picture with that. And then I was making that former up. I'm starting to make that former up. Well, that's for this piece, isn't it? So that's this tube this tube goes in here like this and it fits like that. So that one, that's why we've got that denty bit in there, so it sort of sits underneath that. Now it's obviously not sitting properly because we can't get it where it needs to go, but you get the picture. That's roughly what it does, which we looked at on the other side on the other car. So that's why I'm making these up, because they're missing. So all this was plated over. So that's original. So we've got to reinstate this piece. This needs to be reinstated with this hole in it. And that's original, which we've got to try and salvage some of that and obviously make new. And then that's got a plate put on it from the other side, which is what that is. And then this is another piece that's been added on. And then this stuff here that's sort of hanging around in here, that's what's left of that piece, the original. So all this is what I mean about these areas. And then if you look down in here, look at the damage at the end of the sill here, where it's all rusty and also been dented in, where they've put that in and they thrashed it back. So this is what we're going to do. So I'm not touching this area until we sorted out the other, like the B-post area, because this is a good datum to hang the door off of. And we don't want to lose datums, you know. But this will need to be deconstructed and then rebuilt back up from there. So this stage of the game, I'm making panels up, because this was completely missing, been deleted in their attempts to strengthen it up. Now I know I'm being a bit cruel about them and talking about a horror show, but it isn't really, you know, up to the standards, is it? You know, we know that. I don't like to be rude about other people's work, because I think it's, you know, that's normally the sign of someone that's lacking themselves, if they have to, you know, say that about other people. You know, oh look how rubbish this is. That's how good I am. It's like, no, it's not about that. This kept this car going, and it was probably all they could do with it at the time, and it was strong enough, and it's adequate, and it's probably as good as they could do. As good as they could do. It probably wasn't a place that did the sort of work I do, because not many people do. And the owner of this car probably couldn't have afforded to take it to a place like that when whoever had this work done. So it was done on a budget, and it was adequate for the times, and for the value of the car at that point. But now we're doing a proper job, you know, we're doing things how they should be. What offends me is when I see this quality of work done on this quality of car today by people who shouldn't be working on them, and are taking good money for doing it. You know, that's the difference. You know, I think these guys doing this probably worked hard for their money and did the best they could. And if it wasn't for that, this car wouldn't exist anymore, and it wouldn't be here for me to put right today. So that's yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that lecturing on. But you know, and so yeah, we'll lighten it up a bit, and we'll let's have a look at some pumpkin carving. So this, what follows is, it did this one a couple of years ago during the lockdowns, and it's my Day of the Dead Frida Kahlo piece with sugar skulls by my children. So it's yeah, just a bit of fun. And if you don't know who Frida Kahlo is, look her up. She's a wonderful artist, Mexican artist, married to Diego Rivera, who was an amazing muralist artist, and yeah, look him up as well. And you can always look up the film with Selma Hayek in it, which is anything with Selma Hayek's worth a look, isn't it? Anyway, that's enough of that. And yeah, watch out for them trick-or-treaters, eh? Good night.